What is up, friends? I've clearly used my voice so far today. How are you? What's happening? It's 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, and we're here to do this thing. So I don't know, what are we doing? What are we talking about? Anybody even here yet? So here's the thing. Hey, all the views are coming from Twitter, which means that it's not actually views. If you're on Twitter and you exist, say hello. But yeah, so let me maybe drop a quick line that I am live so that people know. Here we go. Hey, what's up, Matt? CEO, what's going on? Welcome in. Just gonna drop this line in. Here's the content feed. All right. Chris, how you doing? Michael, good to see you. Yeah. All right, y'all. So, okay. I didn't really have a plan for today. I'm just here. Got some stuff I can work on. Got some stuff we can talk about. I had a video go live that I've been working on for quite a while now, and I'm pretty proud of it. I think it came out great. Let me share my screen here once I get the video live up on the screen. Let's do this. We'll get this one up here. And I'm not going to actually play the video. I feel like I've done that before, and I don't know that anybody enjoyed that. But I'll leave it to you to go and watch on your own. But here's basically what here's what I've been working on is trying to get more and more of just a little bit of an artistic feel into these videos, and it's a lot of fun to try to make this kind of stuff. Hope that you enjoy watching it, because I'm also trying to tell a good story here. But so here's the thing. So what this video was I wanted to make something when I was at Render ATL, and I had some questions in my head about why is it that we see certain people sort of accelerate and take off, and other people who have similar talent and or even potentially more talent and similar capabilities and are perfectly nice people. Why don't they accelerate and see that same growth? And I realized I was about to be at Render ATL, which is a huge conference. Tons of people. It is a wonderful event. If you get a chance to go, you should go. And all of these people are doing pretty well, right? Like, most of them have good jobs at companies you've heard of. They're making good salaries. They're building cool stuff. And it would be pretty unreasonable to assume that all of them just waited around to get lucky. But I think that a lot of times it's easy to write off somebody else's success as like, well, they're lucky and I'm not. But if we've got a whole room, thousands of these people who are lucky, that it starts to seem unlikely, right? That all of them just happen to be in the right place at the right time. And I think there's something more that's going on, and that they've made choices or taken actions that we don't know about that created luck for them. And so that's what the goal of this video is I sat down with, I think, 16 different people, ranging from, VPs at companies like GitHub and TBD at Block, to people who are still in their job search now, people who are students, who are boot campers, who are looking for their first role. And we talked about how they create luck for themselves, what they're doing. And I think I feel like there's some really good moments in there. There's a couple key moments in there that I think are just like, I feel like this is all stuff that I've sort of learned in my career. Like everybody does it differently. There's always something new to learn. But I think that I've done a pretty decent job of manufacturing my own luck throughout my career. And there were still some good moments in this video that I felt were like, I'm still thinking about it. So yeah, go check that out. What is this video, what we're doing right now? This video is, honestly, it's about whatever you want it to be about. If you want to ask questions, we can do some Q&A. I might build something here in a little bit. It's really up to y'all. Thank you, Alexander. I appreciate that. I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's a new episode is coming out next week on Wednesday. Should be out. So keep your eyes peeled. That one's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's good. Like, I think it's worth a watch. I don't know. You tell me. You give it a watch and you let me know if it's any good. But yeah, leave a comment, and as always, if you're watching, if you're not subscribed, if you want to support the channel, hit that subscribe button. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything, and it really does help. Those numbers matter more than I wish they did. Also, thumbs up this video because it will help the algorithm decide to show it to more people, so that so we have a few more friends here. Similarly, if you watch the luck video, make sure you leave a comment, give it a thumbs up, so that people know that it's something worth their time. Let them know what you think. Yeah, Robert, this is a great point. Like, success is like an iceberg. Let me come back out here. Success is like an iceberg. Most people will only see the peak above the water. No one sees all the buildup underneath that made the peak possible. This is something that I think about a lot, because every time that I see somebody, then I think they're an overnight success. If I get the chance to talk to them and hear what they've been doing, it's almost always years of work that laid the foundation for them to be an overnight success. And I feel like that's, the web dev challenge is taking off right now, and people are seeing it, and I'm reaching audiences that I've never reached before. And that feels very overnight, right? Like the show kind of went from 0 to 100 real quick. And it's been about a month since the first episode of that came out. And a lot has changed in terms of how my business is running, and who's reaching out to me, and what people are trying to do with me and my business. And that could feel very overnight, but for those of you who know me, I've been doing video stuff since 2018. I've been doing dev stuff since 2003, right? Like, so I've been here a long time working toward these goals, and could I have been more efficient? 100% yes. Like, are there choices that I could have made that would have probably shortened that timeline significantly? Oh yeah. But at the same time, I'm able to do the stuff that I'm doing because I've laid this foundation over so many years. What's up, Coding Mood? How you doing? Glad you're here. Wesley, thank you so much. So I shot that video with Johnny J. Jones. That is, for those of you who know Angie Jones, that is Angie Jones' husband. He is he calls himself a creative partner. He's kind of he can do a little bit of everything, right? He's a gifted videographer. He's a gifted editor. He's good at story. He's great at putting together a crew. Like, he just is he's a people person, right? Like, we went and we shot something at Launch Darkly Galaxy, and that's also on the channel. It's called What Happens When You Show Up, I think is what that video is called. And Johnny walked into this event, and he didn't know anybody, right? He came in, he was there with me, and it wasn't, like a lot of times I think he knows people through Angie, and in this case he knew one or two people, but not a lot of them. And by the end of that event, and this is like, granted, he's working, like he's shooting video this whole time. by the end of that event, he was like walking out and he's like high-fiving the DJ. He's like, sending some positive words back and forth with the staff that are like excited, they're excited to see him go. I was like, how does this man meet so many people and just like put out this energy that makes people want to be his friend? Because I felt exactly the same way when I met him, where I'd probably talked to him for 15 seconds before I was like, yeah, he's people I want in my life forever, right? I don't know how to do that. I feel like it takes a while for people to get to know me because I got my resting murder face, and I can be a little standoffish if I'm uncomfortable. And Johnny, I think, is just the opposite of that. He's just like, he just exudes warmth. Like you see him, you watch him work, and you go, God, that is a likable person. But yeah, just killer, right? D-Dub, oh, what's up? Thank you very much. I really enjoy doing the front end master stuff. Like Mark and the team are great. Every time I get a chance to work with them, it's a blast. The hard part is coming up with a course that's worthy of a front end masters. I feel like I work in a lot of generalisms, which tends to not be the right content for front end masters. Because it's I don't know, it's hard when you're first starting out to have somebody stand in front of you and just say it depends and not give you a straight answer. And I find it's very hard for me to just give straight answers because it all depends. Someone shy and quiet will never see that kind of luck. Okay, so I would like Zio. I hope that's not what you take away from this, because that's not the case. And if you watch that video, there are people in there who are very shy and quiet, and they've done really, really well for themselves. And there are a lot of ways to put yourself out there that don't require you to be loud and in the center of attention. I think you can be a very visible and supportive member of a community without having to be the front person of that community or a performer or anything like that. The thing about visibility is that visibility doesn't necessarily need to be a spotlight. It can be a group awareness, that somebody is always there, always supportive, always helpful, always willing to offer a hand, but not necessarily clamoring for the microphone. And I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind, right? I think it's kind of like sort of like that, but ultimately I don't even think it's necessarily that it's any particular skill set is blessed or not. I think it's more that like what underlies all of this, if you start to really get into the meta analysis, I feel like there are two ways that you can make a great career for yourself. And one of them is one that I don't really like, which is you can be really loud, you take credit for everything, you try to make sure that you control messages so that it looks like you invented everything. You try to put yourself in charge, right? You position yourself as being the authority, and if you get challenged, you're ready to fight to protect your authority. I don't like that approach because I think that approach is short-sighted, because it ultimately turns into you can only be an authority on something as a sensational thing for so long before you have to expand. And the more you expand, the more you're not an authority. You're just having strong opinions about stuff you have no experience in. And if you rely on the strong opinions to be the thing that draws attention, you're going to run out of things that you can have strong opinions about, unless you just resort to kind of sensationalism for the sake of it. And the other thing about that is that when you have to be an authority, when somebody challenges you, your reputation, your value, your perceived value of being an authority rests on you like challenging any or putting down any challenges to your authority. That doesn't feel good, and that doesn't feel sustainable. It feels like, it sort of puts you into this walled off space where you can't be vulnerable. You can't be a member of the community. You can only lead the community, right? And so that's a way that I see people do it, and I think that's I would say that's like the fear-based approach to a successful career, is to try to force your way into being the most important person in the room. I think the second way, and the way that I have noticed tends to be far more sustainable, and seems to be like everybody that I really enjoy, like the people that I love, this is the approach they've taken, is that you attempt to be somebody that people can count on. And what I mean by that is, if you think about who are the people that you reach out to when you need something, it's very rarely the person who made you feel dumb for not knowing something. It's almost always the person who was willing to take a call, who took a few minutes out of their day to get you unstuck when you were having a problem. The person who was willing to mildly inconvenience themselves because a friend needed a little bit of help. And I think the other thing too is the people whose friendships I value the most, they have strong opinions. But if you challenge one of their opinions, they don't take it as a personal attack, and they don't take it as a sign that they're weak. They take it as that's part of being great at something, is embracing that knowledge isn't identity, and that authority isn't derived from asserting dominance. Authority is actually derived from not needing to assert dominance. The people whose opinions I respect the most are the ones who, they're not going to argue. They're going to listen to you. They're going to hear what you have to say, and they're going to say, based on my experience, I've seen these things work. That is one experience and one way of looking at things. You might have a different experience that changes those outcomes, but I would recommend exploring XYZ, because it's probably going to give you more of the information you need. And if somebody says, no, I disagree with you, I think you're wrong because of these reasons, they go, okay. They don't have to be right. They don't have to prove you wrong. They're sharing some experience, and you're going to listen. And if you listen, you'll probably have a better time. And if you don't, you'll probably learn why they were right. And then eventually, hopefully, you'll become one of those people who's wise enough to have that conversation, right? And so I think that's one of those big challenges. You didn't meet me personally, but you perceive me as a kind person, despite what you say about resting murder face. So here's the thing. I think this is one of the reasons that I put myself out there, is that I think it takes me time to warm up to people, and I think that I have a tendency to speak with finality. One of the reasons that I dislike that kind of authority-based approach is that I feel like I have intentionally and unintentionally taken that approach in the past, where for intentionally, I was just young and I thought I was the smartest person in the world, and anybody who disagreed with me clearly they were wrong. And I grew out of that, but I've learned my habits are, when I have something that I want to say, I tend to speak in a way that feels very final. And I've noticed that in my previous roles, whether I'm in a leadership position or an individual contributor position, I have a tendency to listen to what everybody says, and then I'll offer an opinion. And what I'm trying to do is continue the discussion by throwing another idea out there. But I tend to say things in a way that says, this is what we're doing, I have spoken, this is done. And if I'm not careful, then I'm kind of bulldozing my team by speaking with way too much authority, when what I had hoped to do, what my intention was to keep the brainstorm going. I just wanted to participate. And so that has to be a very conscious decision for me to say, hey, this is just my opinion. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life. But here's what I think we could try. And then that becomes more of a discussion, hopefully. But it is that's been an ongoing challenge. And so using this medium, being able to talk to y'all, being able to make the videos and have these discussions in the chat, those sorts of things, I think, feel to me like an opportunity to not have our first conversation be something where we're out somewhere and I'm not on my A game because I got distracted over here, and then somebody says like, "Hey, how's it going?" And I turn around and I like say one word and I look like an asshole because my face is like that, right? And then it but if you've seen me online and you know that's just how my face is, right? And you know that sometimes I can be a little snappy. Hopefully that gives us enough of a chance for you to not think that I don't like you, but rather that it takes me a second. Thanks, Griana. I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. Um, what's up, Bethany Ann? Welcome in. Happy to see you here. So being in the background, helping out, answering questions, I actually think this is it's an underrated strategy because there are so many people in my network who don't have a huge social media following. They are not founders. They're not visible, right? They're sort of in the fabric of things, but they are well employed. They are well loved. They're super effective. They get stuff done. And whenever somebody asks me, like, who should I be hiring? I'm reaching into that backlog more often than not because, unless you need somebody like me who's very like out there and loud and vocal, like a lot of times what you're looking for is somebody who's going to come in and support the team without sucking all the air out of the room. And somebody who knows how to be part of a community and not feel like they need to dominate a community, that's a skill set that I think is really valuable. And again, it goes back to that you don't have to be an extrovert. You don't have to be a performer. You can be shy. You can be introverted because all it takes is being kind. And if you're kind and you're knowledgeable and you're willing to share that knowledge, even if it's in quiet ways, people do notice, and it does turn into a really strong referral network that I think you can rely on for your entire career. What's up, Patrick? How you doing? Vinny. I do not have a punchable face. That's a different look. Okay, I have this theory. Right, is this one of those things that I shouldn't say out loud? Okay, I'm gonna put this up again. I have a theory about punchable faces because, and for anybody if this isn't if English isn't your first language or you've never heard this phrase before, the idea of a punchable face is like, why am I talking about this? The idea of a punchable face is that sometimes when you see somebody, you don't have to hear them speak or figure out anything about them. You just know they suck a little bit. And so it's this joke about like, oh, they've got a very punchable face. And a good example of this is if you watched the Harry Potter movies, Draco Malfoy, that little kid, he's got a punchable face, right? He looks like a jerk. And I actually think that is great acting, not who he is. From what I've heard, it sounds like he was a delightful kid, but he was really good at playing a jerk on that show. And so here's my theory. My theory is I actually think the punchable face is an externalization of what people are like. I think that if somebody is like unpleasant and unhappy in that way that people with punchable faces tend to be, I actually think you manifest that externally. Like I really do. I think that your face adapts to what you are inside, right? And I recognize that I'm saying that as somebody with resting murder face. I don't want to murder anybody. I don't. I just look that way. That's just what my face looks like. But I think there's a difference between what your face looks like when it's at rest and the sort of like, it's like a sneering kind of like, the whole, it's just like they're like always kind of look like they're up to something and like they're gonna really enjoy it if somebody gets like hurt or something like that, that face. But yeah. Trying to go into business myself, and I'm introverted and struggling to be comfortable with talking to people about stuff. I've recently had some confidence challenges after a long career. That's so hard. And I don't have a good answer as somebody who's not introverted. Like I'm not sure how to 0 to 1 that. I think my general advice for any of this stuff is to try to find a small way to practice and then do that all the time. There's this game that I saw. It was a guy a few years back. I think he called it rejection therapy. And his idea was that he was so afraid of people saying no that he would not ask. And he realized how much this was holding him back. And so he started asking for things that he knew people would say no to, but that didn't matter. Like he would go out in public and he would ask a stranger for $100 because of course they're going to say no. But he knew that. So he was ready that somebody was going to say no. And then every time he would ask for something and get told no, it would feel a little less awful. And it would just start to be like, oh, that's okay. They don't dislike me. They just don't want to give me the thing that I'm asking for. If I ask a stranger at a gas station to drive me 3 towns over, like they're going to say no. Of course they are. And that's okay. Like I'm asking too much. And it allowed him to sort of build up experience, I guess, with getting rejected to where he didn't feel like asking for something was a risk anymore. And that allowed the scales to tip to where the risk of not asking didn't feel outweighed by the risk of asking. It started to go the other way where, well, asking is fine. I ask people and get told no all the time. So if I don't ask, there's a chance I won't get a yes that I could have gotten. And I love that framing. I think because I'm also a big believer in the fact that confidence is a muscle. It's something that you have to build, and you build it through a chain of continually doing small things and succeeding at them. And as oxymoronic as it might sound, it's actually like it is a success if you set out to get rejected and do it. Right? If you say, I would like to get rejected, and you ask somebody something and they say no, you've succeeded in that, right? And so you get better and better at getting rejected until it's no longer a thing that feels like the end of the world when it happens. I think the unfortunate thing about it is that like very few people are actively hostile toward us, right? We've very few of us have enemies. Most of us are surrounded by people who are largely indifferent and a handful of people who are actively invested in our success. And that indifference is not cold. It's just indifference in the same way that, when I pass somebody on the sidewalk, I don't think about them at all. It's not that I don't want them to succeed. If they stopped and asked me a question that would help them, and it wasn't something like, can I have $100? I would probably take a couple seconds to help them, right? Because I don't have any ill will toward them. I just I have no feelings toward them at all. They're not, I'm thinking about something else. I'm going toward my next destination. And so that person is like they're a person. I just walk by them. Great person. Never see them again. Don't have to think about them. And I think that's the vast majority of how we go through life is most people don't think about us at all. And there are very vanishingly few people who would ever think about us and say, I want to see their downfall, right? You got to do something pretty terrible for somebody to find you as like a mortal enemy that they think about in negative ways when you're not around. Like outside of the brief moment of a breakup where you're like really mad at your ex or like family struggles and stuff like that. I get it. Like there are reasons why it would happen, but it's hard for me to imagine a stranger like dedicating active time to being mad at me. And like if they are, and I don't know about it, I also kind of can't like what am I going to do about that, right? So it doesn't matter. And ultimately, all of that has led to me realizing that, like, the act of asking isn't me going up against an adversary who's looking for a chance to say no. It's going up against somebody who has no idea who I am. And they've already said no, because if I just walk away, like Sarah Drasner says this all the time, if you're going to ask somebody for something, you already have a no, right? If you walk away, they're not going to do it, right? You never asked, so they've already said no. So the only outcome that could be different is that they say yes. So you either get the no you already have, or you ask and they say yes. And so either way, you have very little to risk by asking, as long as you're respectful and reasonable. Like, don't go ask somebody for $100 if there's no reason to ask them for $100. But so I think, that's a whole thing. So is there a German term for that? I bet there is, and I bet it's amazing. We're past punchable faces. We moved on. And thank you, Vinny. Always appreciate you getting into See, no, and I didn't think I was looking menacing when I said that either. See, this is the problem, is I don't know what my face looks like. Oh, jeez. Let's see. Exposure therapy is like, I'm a really big believer in exposure therapy, but I don't think it needs to be extreme. Like, I think a lot of times we talk about exposure therapy as being something that, if you're afraid of being outside, they throw you out into a field or something, right? And that's not what I'm talking about. I mean small, like I've talked. Have y'all heard me talk about 1% better at any point? Let me talk about. I'm going to repeat myself because I'm sure at least somebody this is new information. The idea of getting 1% better every day is something that I first learned about from James Clear. I don't know if that's something that James took from somebody else or if that's an original concept of his, but ultimately it's just math, right? If you decide that you're going to make a small change, make you 1% better today, and then tomorrow you say, I'm going to get 1% better, and the next day you say 1% better, and you string that together, it might seem like it's not that much difference, but over time, it ends up being exponential. It goes non-linear, right? Because the thing is that if you've got 100 and you decide to do 1% better, the next day you've got 101. And 1% better of 101 is actually 102.1, right? Or 0.01, something like that. Like the math, it starts out super tiny, but over time, like 1% better becomes quite a bit, right? It really starts to become big jumps. And there's a good graph of this. I think at one point somebody actually put this on a spreadsheet, but here's the James Clear one. We'll pull this one back up. So this is open image in new tab. So this is what 1% better looks like, and I think this is like somewhat mathematically accurate. But here's the thing: is like this is 365 days of 1% better, and you end up at 37.78 from 1, right? And so that's a 37 times increase or improvement over your starting point if you just do 1% every day in the course of a year. And conversely, if you get 1% worse every day, you get down to 0.3%. But also notice that it just you just sort of bottom out, right? And this is something that I find really interesting because when I think about steady improvement, it's very rarely going to be big jumps, right? Like it's not going to be as smooth as this graph is. It'll be spiky, and some days you'll get worse, and some days you'll get better. But ultimately, if you're doing improvements, if you're making an effort to become a little bit better every day, you can't help but start to hit that nonlinear growth. And like I was looking at this the other day with like subscriber growth on YouTube because I crossed 50,000 subs. Yes. And that's something that I got on YouTube, I think in like 2016, something, maybe even earlier, 2014. And I was looking, and with each successive milestone that I hit, 1 to 1,000, 1,000 to 10,000, 10 to 25, 25 to 50, the growth in subscriber rates has accelerated. So the time between me getting like 1,000 and 10,000 was actually longer than the time between me getting 10,000 and 25,000, despite that being a much bigger jump. And I think that that's sort of an interesting. Like I didn't intentionally do that. I wasn't sitting down saying, all right, I'm going to figure out how to growth hack YouTube and get as many subscribers as I can. I was just making stuff, and I wanted to make slightly better stuff every time. And most recently, with this Web Dev Challenge, I would say the Web Dev Challenge is that's been like a notable difference. Like you can see the line changed in terms of growth. But that was a like next step for me, because I started working on this a long time ago. I started four web devs, one app idea, 8 months ago, right? So the first one of these, what was the date on this? Can I get the actual date? November 16th, 2023, right? So in November of 2023, I released the first episode of 4 web devs, one app idea. And this was shot remotely. This was a simplified version of what Web Dev Challenge ultimately would become. And there's actually even more story before this, where I was trying to do, I wanted Netlify, in fact, when I was working there, to change. I wanted them to stop doing an in-person conference because I didn't think it had the ROI that they were after, like their goals weren't aligned. I wanted them to switch over and instead do a TV show, because what they were talking about is they wanted awareness, they wanted lots of people to see, they wanted discussion. And an event, you get a few hundred people in one place, but it just doesn't do those other things, right? Unless you're massive, unless you're KubeCon or what's the other one? CES, or like these South by Southwest, these massive conferences. But even like, when was the last time you really heard people get buzzy about South by Southwest? They just don't, right? Like, we just don't talk about them. That's okay. They've got a lot of value that's not awareness, but if your goal is awareness, an event's not going to do it, right? So I was pushing for this idea of like, let's make TV, let's make these shows. And I couldn't get the leadership team across the line. That's okay. But here we are, right? And it's 2 years now, about 18 months since I left Netlify. And last month, I dropped the Web Dev Challenge. So it has been a long journey just to get through this one idea of me doing probably 2+ years of me advocating for making like TV for developers before we get the first episode of Web Dev Challenge. And this isn't even the end of the road. This is still a step toward what I actually see as being like the final form of Web Dev Challenge. Like I have a lot more that I want to do with it. I just have to show people how good Web Dev Challenge can be, so that they want to invest a little more, so that we can do the rest of it, right? It's a whole thing. So this is really, I think it's important to think about this as it's incremental improvements, it's steady growth. And what's really interesting about this kind of stuff is, y'all want to see behind the curtain for a minute? Are we going to do this? Let me show you this video here. Is this the one? I think it's the Scott one. Maybe this one? Okay, so look at this too. Like, this isn't actually the one I wanted to show you, but look here. This is when, let's see. This is the day that Web Dev Challenge dropped. So Web Dev Challenge drops, and then 4 Web Devs, 1 app starts taking off. And then let's look at the other one here. Where is it? Did I get this wrong? Where are we going? Is it you? No, but that one got a little bump too. And then, where's the one that like really took off? Where is it? Here? That's not it. Where the hell did this episode go? This one? There it is. Look at this. Here's where the Web Dev Challenge drops, right? We're at like 13. And then this one got discovered retroactively somehow. And like I didn't do anything for this. This is just like YouTube just was like, you know what? We should show this to people again. And off we go, right? And so suddenly we've got this just wild growth. And you can see too, like look at the subscriber growth. Like this all happened recently. It's just wild to me that this is sort of how we've moved, and it all is, you know, I've just been like steadily pushing, and I think the way that a lot of this stuff happens, and why I think this is so important when I talk about like steady progress, I constant gentle pressure is another way that I've written it down. Which I think is a Danny Meyer quote. The importance of being steady, of being consistent, is so hard to overstate, because there is no way in hell I could have just sprinted my way to getting Web Dev Challenge out there. It had to be slow, because I had to learn what people weren't going to fund, because at first I was trying to go right out of the gate with the full game show idea, and like a full series and teams and multi episodes and all the stuff. It was too much money. People weren't gonna do it without having anything they could point to and say, well, we know this works, so a little bit more is safe. So I had to learn that. I had to back down and decide, okay, well, how can I test this? And then I built 4 Web Devs 1 app, and 4 Web Devs 1 app needed a few iterations before I understood what was and wasn't working about it. Like there were things that I thought went really well. There were things that I didn't think were as good. Things that I felt like were just glaring holes in the story, and I took all of that and I made 4 or 5 of them, and then on we go. Web Dev Challenge, right? Now we've recorded 4 Web Dev Challenges. We've got 2 more scheduled, and we're negotiating like probably 7, 8, and 9 right now. And in each of those, I'm learning something new. I'm learning a way that we can make these a little bit better. And like, for example, one of the things that I can't figure out is how to make the mini hackathon, the community side of this, interesting to people. Like we're just not getting the submissions, and I would have been I'm so surprised by that, because I thought people would be really excited for a chance to, like, if you need to build a portfolio piece and you've got support from the people who work on these teams, like, in the most recent one, it was the Amazon team, the AWS Amplify team. These are like FANG engineers who are down to support you and like network with you while you build an app. And you get a portfolio piece, you get open source work, you get code review from FANG engineers, but people didn't turn them in, and I don't know why. So the whole thing is so that's like the new thing I'm trying to figure out, is how do we get the community like engaged, and please let me know, like, if there's something that I could be doing that would make these more, like, what would make you participate, right? Like what would bring you across the line to build one of these apps, because I'm trying to get people to spend 30 minutes on planning, 4 hours to build. What would get you there? Like, let me know, because I really do want to make it happen. I want people to participate. So let's keep on diving into the comments here. What's up, Fada? How you doing? Planning to launch a project management tool. I know there are many similar tools out there. What key factors should I consider to make my tool stand out? I mean, I think the major challenge with any tool is focusing on like a specific pain point that you're trying to solve. Because I think if you try to launch the everything tool, it's not going to work. And if you say, I'm going to help you do product management, people are going to say, how is this different from thing? And if you don't have a really clear answer on what it's solving, everybody's going to kind of back away. What you want is for most people to back away, but for the people who are really helped by your tool to be enthusiastically embracing it. But to be completely honest, I haven't entered the product management tool market, and so I don't know that I have any particularly good insights there. I mean, this is tough. Helping people because you genuinely want to help them, and then having them treat that like it's not part of a relationship. People will do that. I also think a challenge there. Well, let me think for a second. I think what's challenging is even if we're giving away everything, we still have to value it. How do I want to say this? So I don't know your situation, so don't take this as me like judging you specifically, but rather an observation on some of the ways that I've seen this. One of the things that I've seen is people who I would call like team martyrs, and they will jump on any problem. And they do it. They sincerely want to help, but they do it in a way that's like detrimental to themselves. And then there's sort of this like weird guilt and bitterness thing that builds up, where the team gets trained that they can sort of let the martyr handle all the problems. And it's not because they don't respect the martyr, it's because the martyr is so fast to jump on those problems that it's just sort of, that's like the routine that everybody gets into. And then because of that, the martyr starts to get bitter that they don't get appreciated because, the team isn't trying to wave them off or anything. And they always get shouted out in reviews and stuff. Like they're always in to help out and everything like that. But it doesn't feel like enough, because ultimately the martyr is putting themselves in a pretty bad situation to handle these situations. The trick, I think, the balance that needs to be struck, I think, is healthy boundaries are what breed respect. And I think that like if somebody is just trying to like empty themselves out for everybody else in a way that doesn't leave anything for themselves, and this is professional, this is personal, this is everywhere that I've seen it. There are people who they feel like they're always trying to find a way to give more than they have. And I don't know why. I'm not going to cast value judgments on it, but you can see that they're making themselves unhappy by giving more than they can afford to give of their energy, of their time, of whatever it is. And that sense of like they've overextended themselves to try to make everybody feel better has a pretty negative impact on the relationship, because then the relationship starts to be tinged with guilt and bitterness and resentment, where, like a good example of this is the trope of like the mother who's like, oh, well, look at all the ways I've oh, don't mind me, I'm just working away on this dinner for all of you and nobody's helping me. And then you go try to help and she's like, get out of my kitchen, right? Like that whole kind of thing. And so it changes the relationship in a weird way. And I've had coworkers who operate in that way, where they will do anything in their power to be the one involved in handling a crisis. And they're really unhappy because they're always dealing with crises. And when you try to help, they kind of wave you off and say, no, I can handle this. And so you just kind of learn to leave them be. And then they get bitter that nobody ever helps them. And it's like, well, you don't let anybody help you. You actively wave us off when we try to help. And all that is I'm kind of off the original quote, but I think the part that's interesting is when I've seen people start to have boundaries. I will help when, like a good example is like with junior engineers. If a junior engineer comes to me and says, I can't figure this out, I used to just say, great, let's figure it out. And we'd sit down and we'd start working and we would go. And then I realized I was cheating both of us, because I was starting to feel like, well, I think they just come over to get help, and then they don't want to like this isn't like good for me. It's not good for them. They're just coming over to have me do their job. And that was turning into weird like resentment. And I also think I wasn't teaching these engineers. I was just solving problems, which is also not ideal. Like they're not growing, they're just getting their tasks done, which is two very different things. So then I switched it up and I started saying, when somebody come over and say, I can't figure this out, I would say, okay, well, walk me through what you tried. And they would then start to tell me what they tried, or they would admit that they hadn't tried anything, at which point I would say, okay, what would you do if you were in this situation? And they'd list off 3 ideas. And I'd say, go try those. And if those don't work, come back and we'll figure this out. Or if they've tried things, they'll say, well, I tried this and I couldn't figure it out, so I Googled this and I didn't know what this was called, so I couldn't get a good answer, and now I'm over here. Well, that's an easy one. Like, they don't know the jargon. There's no way around that, right? I can fix that problem. So we fix the problem, and I send them off to actually solve the problem. I don't write the code. I just tell them how to unblock themselves, right? And that suddenly, now they're growing. They're having to ask for questions. They're having to ask less often because they're learning how to solve their own problems, and they're also learning habits of how to debug, how to search, how to identify a problem and narrow it down, so that when they come with a question, they're coming with a very specific tactical question, not like, I got this task and I looked at my code and it didn't make sense, so I'm over here. And in both cases, I think that breeds respect, because when my juniors are getting more confident in the way that they debug, they're becoming not juniors, right? And so I'm building a healthy respect for their ability to grow and learn and improve. And I think they respected me more because I wasn't just saying, let me solve your problem and get you out of here. I was helping them actually become better at their craft. And I think, there were people who found that frustrating because they just wanted somebody to solve their problem so they didn't have to use their brain. And that's okay. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who are acting in good faith. And setting those kinds of boundaries where it was like, I will help you if you've met the criteria of like what help means on our team. And we would discuss this. It wasn't like I was arbitrarily setting rules. This was like team meetings and stuff where we would kind of talk about like how to debug. What are some best practices? We would sort of we call them lunch and learns, I think, where we'd talk through like a specific challenge. Somebody would bring up like, how do I debug, right? And then anybody who had experience with it could just talk on it for a minute and share some techniques, and we'd turn that into a little team activity. But I think that was when I started to feel a shift where I didn't feel like I was a resource on the team, and instead I felt like I was a team member. And I think our relationships we grew because of that as a team. Like I got better at teaching and mentoring, and folks got better as engineers to where they didn't need my help anymore. And many of them have gone on to be tech leads else places, which is great, right? That's exactly what we want. And I think that, so I don't know if any of that is helpful, but I will say that I have found that the way in which we offer help tends to train people on how to accept that help and how to think about that help. And so if any of that rings true, maybe something to take home. Closed mouths don't get fed. Exactly. Like if you don't ask, it's not going to happen. The compound effect. All right, I'm going to write this one down because I feel like, I like James Clear, but I also have I keep seeing that James Clear has a tendency to like use somebody else's idea and doesn't really credit it back, like kind of credits it back, but in a way that's pretty obscure. And that has always made me a little uncomfortable. So the compound effect. All right. Recursive Pareto principle. 20% of the work gets you 80% of the results. 20 of 20 is 4% of the effort. 80 of 80 is 64% of the results. Is that in response to the 1% better? First $1 million is the hardest. 100%. Like, yeah, I think it's like the way I've talked about it is it's if you're standing at the top of a grassy plain and you want to move a rock and it's a big old boulder, right? The amount of effort that you have to apply to get that boulder to move at all is enormous. But once it starts to move, if there's any slope, it just sort of starts to gain momentum, and you just have to like keep applying a little bit of pressure to keep it from settling. But if you keep it, like it just keeps going, right? And it's the snowball or whatever you want to call it. Like any of those things, the little bit of pushing, I think makes a huge difference. Oh yeah, Cascadia was great. If you get a chance to go to Cascadia JS, I would also highly recommend that. It is wonderful. Oh, did we get a hype train going? Thank you all. I'm using StreamYard, so none of the Twitch events come through. But thank you. Did somebody raid or something? There are too many options in programming, especially in the world of JavaScript or web. So how do you decide to particularly work and learn, and how much learning is enough? I mean, the short answer is there's no amount of learning that's enough. I think you're never done learning. But I will say there's no, like, you don't need to learn anything. You can have a perfectly great career not writing any JavaScript. Like you can pick up Squarespace, you can pick up Wix, you can pick up WordPress themes, you can do whatever you want, and you can make money as a web dev. Right? There's actually a lot of money in customizing people's Wix sites and Squarespaces. It's a big market. Lots of people use that. Small businesses cannot afford custom web dev, and so modifying their Wix and their Squarespace site there's money in that, right? If you want to get into different types of web dev, learn the thing that is relevant to what you're trying to accomplish. I think that's the way I've always found it to work. Is that if I try to learn just in case, it's usually not very helpful. Like I don't retain as much of it. I don't find myself interested as much. Like sometimes I'll be interested just because it's kind of, I don't know, the way a compiler works is sort of fascinating in a math esoteric sense. But if I'm working on a real project, like speaking of compilers, I got into how transpilers worked, and I started learning Babel because I was doing a project where I specifically needed to solve a problem in Markdown, where I had some custom stuff that I was trying to do, and I didn't really know how to deal with it using off-the-shelf tools. So I started digging into how the abstract syntax trees and how transformations worked, and what is the visitor pattern, and all those sorts of things that I didn't like. They're not interesting to me. Like the visitor pattern in and of itself, not interesting, right? I still am only sort of confident that I know what it means, but I figured out how to use it to accomplish a goal. And if somebody ever asks me, hey, can you write a transformer plugin? Yeah, I can. I can do that now. And so I think a lot of it is tied to learn when it's relevant to what you're trying to do, and then just make sure that you're stretching yourself so that you're trying to do things that require you to learn, or don't. Like, I don't think there's a right or wrong way to do it. I ultimately just think learning is a tool, and it's there to unlock the things that you need to know to get something done that you want to get done. And if you don't have a thing you want to get done, and learning is not particularly enjoyable to you, then what's your incentive to learn, right? So I think if you build yourself a breadcrumb trail of, if I want to be a web dev who can go work at Netflix, you're going to need to know React. You're going to need to have pretty solid grip on Node. You're probably going to need to understand some of the leet code stuff. I don't think they do leet code in their interviews, but knowing a little bit about those algorithms and stuff is probably worthwhile. And all of that is, you can build projects that'll take you steps and steps closer to that. There are a million tutorials out there, both on YouTube, the really long, like the 3+ hour build a whole app tutorials. Those will take you through building stuff that is FANG quality, right? Or FANG adjacent in terms of the complexity of what you're building. But if that's not your dream, and you want to work at a local shop that does small to medium business sites, you might not need to learn any of that stuff. You might just need to get good at customizing a WordPress theme, and you could make a solid living doing that. It really, really, really has to come down to your goals and what's relevant to your immediate career path. With the exception of, if it's fun, learn it. Like, I love learning because learning is fun. I don't necessarily think that is true for everybody. If you can make learning fun, right? Like if you can find a way to figure out that part of your brain that lights up whenever you learn something new, and it like feels really good to have a new piece of knowledge lock in, and start treating that as a reward in and of itself, and just learn stuff because you can, and that'll help you pick projects that say, well, I want to learn how, I don't know, state machines work. I'm going to go build a project that needs a state machine. That's a great way to learn more stuff, right? And all of that stuff is applicable. Every time you pick up a skill, you're going to be able to use it. You're going to be able to put it somewhere else and put it to work. But you don't need any of it, right? That's sort of the cosmic irony of this is like, we don't need knowledge. Knowledge unlocks new doors, but we don't need to unlock those doors. Like it's an optional thing. And that's why I embrace so much of the joy of it. I like to see what's behind doors. I like to go learn more because I don't know, to me, it kind of makes life interesting. But there are a lot of ways that I could have made a living that wouldn't have required me to learn any of this. Just, I don't know, maybe not a good answer. Let's see. Oh, Wesley, did you buy subs for people? Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. The hype train. You don't make dedicated time for, let's see, how far off am I? Okay, I'm like 17 minutes behind, so I don't remember what. Oh, we're talking about the hackathon. Don't make dedicated time for it. I fully understand that. Love to do one at some point. Yeah, that Discord event where people participating, that's not a bad idea. We could, So like maybe I could get the devs from the sponsor company to hang out in Discord in like an open channel for a few hours, like to get people off and running. When would I do that? Like what would be the right time to do that? I'm guessing it's going to have to be inside of business hours because I don't want to ask the folks on the sponsor teams to like do nights or weekend work. But I like that idea. I think that could be a good way to maybe like a Friday when everybody's kind of slowing down for the week. Try to get like a Friday afternoon kickoff session to get the thing going. Setting aside the time. Time seems to be the killer. What type of community do I want to build? I want to build a community that is excited about building. I don't care about your experience level. And I think that the content tends to lean a little more experienced, I think, just because I've been coding for 20 years and it's a little hard for me to even remember what it's like to not know some of the basics of programming. So trying to do something beginner friendly could honestly be like really challenging for somebody to learn. Because I don't know that I'd be able to communicate it well. Because again, like there are things that I've been doing for so long now that I don't actually remember what it's like to not know them. It'd be like trying to imagine myself not knowing how to speak English. I've just been doing it for so long that I'm not 100% sure how I could conceptualize what it must be like to not know grammar. That being said, I think my audience tends to be mid to senior is what I've noticed, is that a lot of the folks who are kind of active in the community, a lot of the folks who watch tend to be at least a few years into their career. But that's not to say that juniors aren't welcome. And I think a lot of folks who watch are a little earlier. And I actually really like the idea of watching a stream that's above what you feel confident in. Like this is when I was learning video production, I would actually watch way more advanced stuff than I was capable of understanding. And part of the reason is that I think that what makes a lot of this stuff hard is the jargon and the language that people use. And you don't learn that in a classroom. You learn that by watching professionals talk, and you hear what they say, and then you go Google it, right? And so I would watch these deep discussions of like two cinematographers talking to each other, and they would just say stuff, and I have to pause it every 10 seconds to go Google what the hell do they mean by quarter grid? What the hell do they mean by like unbleached muslin? What the hell do they mean with like a spot versus a flood versus a softbox versus a bounce? I don't know. I didn't know. I had no idea of what any of that meant. I just knew that that's the way they talked, and I had to go figure it out. So I do think there's a lot of value in watching something, even if you don't quite understand it yet, if you feel like it's out of your skill level, because it gives you the vocabulary, and it starts to give you a sense of the grammar of how professionals speak to each other. And so when you get into the mid levels, the senior levels, the advanced levels, you can hear somebody speaking in a way that then gives you confidence that, like, if you're going to say something, if you say it like that, you feel confident that you're not going to like sound, out of place, right? And I do think there's a lot of value in that. And I also think like you pick up a lot of small tips even if you don't understand the full context of what's going on. Like watching somebody write a compiler. I did this the other day. I was watching somebody write a compiler. I don't know how C code works. I haven't written any C code. I don't really understand a lot of that stuff. But a lot of the concepts that they were using were general purpose, not in a way that like I would ever, write my JavaScript in the way they were writing C, but more that they brought up some concepts that have sort of stuck in my brain that I'll be able to think about, and it won't necessarily be directly applicable, but it changes my relationship to some of this stuff, where now I understand like what is the difference between writing it in a loop, or like using a function with variables versus something that we can kind of flatten and inline. Those little sorts of choices. I didn't learn anything about code, but I learned things about programming, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think that's sort of where we're at. Yeah, Robert, I saw your app. I need to actually get logged in and try it. I'm excited. Oh, now Charles is doing gift subs. Thank you. Really appreciate that. Thanks, Vinny. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, all apps need state machines. We have said state machines 3 times now, so at any point we should expect David Korshid to show up. His alarm is going off right now. Let's see. Thanks, Anish. I appreciate that. Glad you're here. Discord does have video chat group. I do like that. Do Discord or any event during the college free day. Saturday time is best. Okay. Yeah. I think it would be hard for me to get the engineers from the companies to hang out on a Saturday. So I'd have to figure out exactly how that works. What's up, Anthony? Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, well, I mean, I'd love to see what you're building, and if you got ideas, please, we've got the Discord. There's Builder chat in there. We're launching a new episode of Web Dev Challenge next week, and that's going to come with a new hackathon. So this one's going to be around Algolia. We're using they've got some really interesting like machine learning search to go with their standard keyword search. It's very cool stuff. We were able to build some fun things with it. I think you're going to enjoy that episode. But yeah, if you get excited, please do get involved in that hackathon. It's gonna kick off on Wednesday, soon. The juniors need a guide, as you said throughout the video. Act for them. Yeah, I think, okay, so that's actually a fair point. Like if I doing more of like just hangout sessions and coding sessions, like maybe I can figure out a way to do that. Sup, comp sci, brah. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I heard of build space. I haven't heard of build space. Let me look that one up. Okay. And then pick a few subscribers and start a new series called 4 Subs, 1 App. I actually love that idea. So what I'm doing with what I'm doing right now is I'm having the hackathon. So with every episode that drops, there is a hackathon that runs for about 2 weeks following it, where you get the same challenge. So 30 minutes to plan, 4 hours to build an app that meets the challenge from the show. And we've got we've got prizes, we've got a chance to hang out with the engineers that work at these companies, we've got community, it's a chance to put something in your portfolio. And I really do want to see more people involved in that. I do kind of love the idea of, I wonder if we could do like mini episodes. If we did it like, so Web Dev Challenge, we bring everybody into the studio and we've got everybody there. But the original iteration of this with 4 web devs, 1 app, everybody recorded remotely and they would kind of do a demo. I wonder if we could do like bonuses if people did demos in the same sense, and then we could kind of edit like, yeah, we could edit together videos of people's demos and put them on the channel. But we'd have to have like a minimum number of people participate for that to work, would be the trick. I don't know. What do you think? Could I convince you, chat, to make a video demo of your app? Would you do it? You're supposed to say yes. But no, I mean, I love ideas like that. I think that this is the part where like I'm a little worried about chicken and egg stuff, because I don't want to say I'm going to do that, and then if like one person submits, it's like a bummer for them because nobody played along, right? You can set aside the 4 hours to do the thing. Absolutely love to do a video demo. Okay, that would be great. Yeah, I mean, I would love to do a mini episode. Like it would be so much fun to have a couple things that we could drop in between the full Web Dev Challenge episodes where we've got like people from the community demoing apps they built. That would be amazing. Like I would love that. And it would be a chance, again, like I think about this stuff a lot as sort of networking at scale, right? Because I feel like we talk about networking like it's a dirty word. And I think people often imagine networking to be going to an event and you like hand out business cards and you say, please consider me part of your professional network. And that's not what networking is. Networking is making people aware of who you are. In fact, okay. In the video that just came out, try that again. I think this is going to be a short, so I'm gonna try to get this clean. See if we can do it. Okay, so in the video that I just put out on making your own luck, Emily Freeman said this: "It's not about who you know, it's about who knows you." This absolutely melted my brain because it's so correct. I can go out and try to introduce myself to 1 million people and then say I know them. I met this person at this event. I met this person at this event. I emailed this person. None of that matters. What matters is that the people that I'm meeting remember me enough and think of me in a way that they would be willing to recommend me to other people. So my job when I'm networking isn't to ensure that I have like checked the box of met person I've heard of, met person I've heard of, met person I've heard of. That doesn't matter. What matters is you need to go out and focus on making a good impression. And a good impression is just being a friend, right? Be kind, be helpful, be supportive. Show the people in the community that you are out there to contribute, that you're out there to have a good time, that you are out there to lift up the people around you, that you're there to participate. And your network notices, right? If I see you there are people in the Discord right now that I'm recommending for jobs, and I met them in the Discord. I've never seen their faces. I've never spoken to them, but I've seen the way they act in the Discord, right? And I don't know if any of them know this. And I think this is very true. When you do a good job of participating in a community, people pay attention and they start to notice who the good actors are, who the helpful people are, the engaged people, the interested people, the kind people. When you build your network, you're building a group of people who know you. Those people who know you can speak on your behalf when they're not in the same room as you, right? If I hear about a job, I'm not looking for a job, but I know people who are. And there are people who I remember from interactions online, from interactions at conferences, from interactions through email and previous jobs. And I will 100% recommend those people for jobs when they're not in the room. And that's because I'm in their network. I know who they are. They've done a great job of making a great impression on me. And I think that's the critical thing to consider is you're not out there to build up a list of big names. You're out there to build up a list of meaningful relationships in your professional networks. Obviously, if people have influence, that is great because it means that they have more people they can talk to on your behalf. But even if they don't, they will, because careers are long, and the people who are breaking into the industry now, they'll be the people running the industry in 10 years. It is really, really important that you treat everybody as a friend and remember that no matter where somebody is today, you have no idea where they're going to be in 5-10 years. And if you treat everybody as a friend, it doesn't matter. Like, you're friends. And when they get big down the road, they'll remember you as a friend. If you treat people like a transaction, if you treat people like somebody that you are trying to leverage for a better position, we can all feel that. And it's not going to encourage us to help you. Like, I want to help my friends. I don't want to help people who are professionally linked to me, who are trying to leverage my name and drop it in rooms to make themselves sound more important. Thank you. Mini episodes are a great idea. Yeah, mini episodes are a great idea. I like that a lot. That's comp sci bra, good idea. Even if it is one submission, you know what? That's a good point. Like, maybe what we could do is we could do them as shorts or something. Like, I could put them out through shorts. I could put them out through Twitter, stuff like that, so that I can highlight community members who are doing demos. And if we get a lot of them, that's great. If we only get one, then it still fits, right? We can still launch it. So yeah, I don't know if any of y'all who, I don't know if anybody's watching, but I know like Anthony, Nick, Robert, who was my other submission today? We had another one come in. I can't. Was it Anthony? Jacob. Yeah, if you get into, like, if you want to do a demo of your app, do it, please, and I'll run it through my channels if you want, obviously. And if you run it through your channels, I'll amplify it. But I would absolutely love to have more people participate. You just stop trolling Sawrek. Vinny, you know I love you. Okay, so it is 10:20. We got a little bit of time left. Let's see. What should we do? Let's work a little bit on this app that I've been building. I'm working on the new version of Learn with Jason, right? So let's pull that up. And let me pull up my code editor. Okay. And am I in the right thing? Where am I? Oh, we're not in a folder at all. So we're gonna go open recent. We're gonna open this one up. Let's start it. And okay, so this is my app that I'm currently working on. This is the next iteration of Learn with Jason, and I have been trying to make it feel a little more Netflixy. Haven't gotten through a lot of the styling, so things are still a little kind of clunky in terms of how they feel, but I've been able to get a handful of things going. So first and foremost, when you are in here, you can log in and you get a profile, right? Your profile includes what level your subscription is, and then if you click through to one of these, you have the ability to change your plan, so you can do enthusiast or connoisseur. You have the option to go monthly or yearly. Probably going to get rid of the yearly options, honestly, because somebody made a good point that a big surprise annual bill is not really what anybody ever wants. So monthly is a little more manageable. Then once you're in here, we've also got the, this is clerk. Got to work on the styling a little bit. I've done some little bit of weirdness there. We'll figure that out. Then you come out to the home page, and we've got our series. So there's, Web Dev Challenge. We've got this Do It Anyway series, and this is the one that I've been using as my dummy data. But so once you click in, you have the episode data, the episode here. You also have your title, what episode it is, the date that it was published, a little bit of description, and then people who are in the episode, and I have to figure out if I'm going to do a whole thing with that or not. And then we've got our episode credits, which I also need to figure out. And that currently all runs, this is running off Mux, which is kind of fun. So this is like a Mux video. We also have in here, this one is tied, I believe. Let me double check that actually. Is this one tied to BenQ Screen Bar Halo? Let's go with so this is pre-release. It's got a playback ID. All right, so what should happen then is when I log out, which I think I'm realizing now I don't have, haven't added a log out button yet, so I'll do that. But for now, I can fake it by clearing all of my cookies. I'm gonna come back out here, right? Gotta reload. So I come back out, let's go to the Web Dev Challenge. I go to the Screen Bar Halo, and it says you're not allowed to watch this. So what I've done effectively is made it so that I'll be able to pre-release episodes on learnwithjason.dev before they go public for subscribers only, which I'm very excited about. I think that's going to be really fun. And it also lets me do some stuff like right now when people are on, you can subscribe on Twitch, you can subscribe on YouTube, you can subscribe on GitHub, you can subscribe on Discord. I don't like that it's so spread out, and what I really don't like is that I can't consolidate the benefits. So like if you subscribe on YouTube, I can make videos members only for YouTube, and people can watch, like this Render ATL video was actually up for members for 4 days before it went public this morning. But Twitch subscribers can't see that. Discord subscribers can't see that. Like, so it's not, it doesn't work the way I want it to. If I have this, I can, there's a little bit of work I got to do to make this work, but I can set it up so that if you subscribe through the site, you get benefits on the site and on Discord, right? If you subscribe on YouTube, I can actually sync that and give you benefits on Discord and the site. So like an active YouTube membership will give you the same early access that you would get if you were a subscriber through the site. All of that then kind of becomes like a little bit easier for me to manage. Same with Twitch subscribers. If you hook up your Twitch account, we'll be able to see if you're a sub or not, and that'll give you permission to see things and so on. So basically, like I'll actually be able to give people benefits no matter where they sub from. Now, obviously, I'm going to start pushing everybody to please sub through the site itself, because like 50% of it goes to the network when it's YouTube or Discord or Twitch. Only 30 cents or so, 40 cents goes to Stripe when I do it through my own site. So it's actually more of the revenue gets put back into the site as opposed to paying fees to the different platforms. And I'm going to try to work on some additional stuff that we can do. I'm not 100% sure. Like, if you've got ideas for what you want, let me know. Yeah, I mean, like, so Patreon solves this kind of. But the challenge that I find with Patreon is that it then creates another platform that sort of expects subscriber updates. And I just don't have, I don't have the bandwidth to have another channel to publish to. I don't think I could do that in a way that would be quality. And I don't want to just do it for the sake of doing it. What am I building? I'm currently building a Netflix style site that supports subscriptions for videos. And the way that we're making this work is why don't we actually get into this a little bit? Let's get into the episode and let's change out the details here so that the video player shows the right details. Pre-release, right? And if it's pre-release and is subscriber, oh, this is going to be gross, isn't it? Because they're going to... You know what I might do? I might make this into like a bigger block like this so that it's not as... not pre-release. Because then we kind of have a little more control over what's going on. And then if we say if it's pre-release and not subscriber, then we can do something like this where we say what's oh, and then I need to do one of those. Oh, right. Right. I know how code works. There we go. Okay. So now when you're not logged in, I'll be able to show kind of a placeholder that says like, hey, this video is subscribers only until and I think, oops, that's the wrong window. Let's get into the seed data and look at this BenQ. Pre-release. Oh, I wonder if I should set... 15th standard is exactly what I'm doing right now. Is I'm inventing something because I don't know. Why not, right? Why not make it 10 times harder than I need to? But there's another part of me that just kind of like I'm very interested in how all of this works, and ultimately I want, like, what I'm imagining, just to kind of paint the long view of where I'd like to go eventually. I want to bring back, like, for any of you who've been watching the show for a very long time, I used to have a lot of interactive stuff where we could drop boops from the ceiling, and we'd have corgi stampedes, and there were sound effects and overlays, and I really really loved all that stuff. But the problem that I found with it was that it was a little too distracting, and I didn't have an easy on-off switch for it, which I know there were ways I could have made an easy on-off switch for it. And it was distracting to guests, which that was the main reason that I cut it off, was that for folks who don't spend a lot of time in live situations, trying to talk through code stuff while somebody is like sounding air horns and sending corgis across the screen can be a little like disconcerting. So I think like my general thought is I would like to be able to bring back that stuff, but I want to have more control over what it does and who can do it and like when it's the right time. Because there are things that I would like to get alerted by. For example, there are times when somebody's posted the answer in chat and I am not looking at chat, right? And on a 90-minute live stream, sometimes that 5 minutes that we waste not looking at chat can mean the difference between finishing a project or not. And having subscribers be able to like do a tap, I used to have a hem command that would kind of alert me that something was going on in the chat that I needed to look at. And being able to bring that back, but maybe that's subs only, right? So that it's not like anybody who wants to can just make noise. And maybe noise in general is subs only. And yeah, I've got a few other ideas on how I want to kind of play with that. But ultimately thinking about it from the standpoint of, I would like the stream to become more interactive. I would like for the Discord to have a little bit more going on in it that's for subs only. If we do, if there are like other things that happen, it'd be kind of fun to have like subs only areas of the site. All because I think at the end of the day, like I want this content to be free, and the content itself will always be free, right? Like I'm always going to release the episodes. Maybe they'll sit for a week in sub only, but like I'm not gonna, I don't have the bandwidth to like make secret subs only content. It's just probably not gonna happen. Like maybe blooper reels, maybe behind the scenes stuff, but nothing like. There won't be a subs only episode of Web Dev Challenge. I just can't. There's no bandwidth for that. But like, it is. I also want to create a way for people to support the channel, because if we want to make stuff like Web Lunch, for example, it is very. And for folks who don't know, Web Lunch is a series where I talk to people about careers and how do you get to a point where you're doing stuff for work that doesn't make you feel regret? How do you get to your deathbed and feel like you lived a good life? Like those types of conversations are so critical for my own growth, and I want to share them. But it's not really something that a company sponsors. They don't like. I don't see a way for a company to like. Brand awareness is great, but most companies aren't doing brand awareness, and they want at least some tie-in to their business. So I need to fund it somehow, right? And like I can fund it off the profit of other videos, but that doesn't happen fast, right? Like if we want to be able to make those regularly, then subscriber supported content is going to be kind of the way we do it. And so if people want to see those types of videos, putting a few bucks in every month and getting other people who like the content to put in a few bucks every month, that allows me to fund that type of stuff, or like CSS only things, because there are no companies that do CSS for money and therefore will not pay to make CSS content, right? I really want to make CSS only versions of Web Dev Challenge, but who's going to sponsor it, right? So this is where I think starting to figure out ways that we can do subscriber funded content is going to open up the door for a whole slew of topics that aren't really well aligned with like business sponsors. Oh yeah, fun function. Y'all see the fun functions back? I think that's super fun. Uh, Helpful interactions back in the day with chat being able to highlight text on the editor. Ooh, I like that. That's super cool. Tend to learn better with a fart reverb sound. See, and we all learn in different ways, right? And so the other thing that would be interesting though is like here's an actually fun possible thing that we could do is we could have like a sound effects version and a non-sound effects version where depending on what your preference is, you can open one page or the other or even toggle a switch, at which point the sound effects would like turn off. So you could focus on what we're building. And if you want more chaos, you can turn on the sound effects and then, you know, the air horns and the duck quacks and all that stuff would be happening, which I think is like, that's really fun. So anyways, I want all that to exist. Having a moderator co-host, you know, I really like that. I've been talking about that for a while, is how I would get somebody to be like in the booth, so to speak. Because I have a whole setup. Like I don't know if you remember, I have multiple angles. Like I don't have them set up right now. I've just been kind of keeping it simple to prevent myself from overthinking all of this. But I have the ability to run 3 angle. I have the ability to do 4 angles at a time. I actually have the equipment to run 3, and we could have like a 3 angle stream where we've got, you know, me and a guest and then somebody in the booth actually operating the switcher to like go between which angle we're looking at and all that kind of stuff. Like there's so much fun we could have, y'all. Like we could do so much chaos, and it's just a matter of figuring out how do I make it worth somebody's time, right? Like who has the ability to come sit with me for 3 hours on a Tuesday? And I think for a while at least, it might make sense for somebody to come in a just hanging out capacity. But I think after a while, I have to figure out how to pay for that. And again, kind of comes down to subscriber supported content, because for us to do things like that, I can't rely on volunteers. I need to pay people for their time. And I just don't have the profit margins off of things like Web Dev Challenge to fully fund other forms of content like that. So that's sort of my thing. Pedals to change camera screen. Does he really? Should ask him about that. That sounds fun. Michael's level of chaos on stream is like, it makes me anxious. Like he lets his, one of the ones I remember that made me so, like, this is when I knew that Michael and I would get along. But Michael he has a redeem that you can use in his Twitch chat, where if you spend a bunch of your stream points, you can force him to light a candle that smells like farts. I'm not going to do that, but I love that he does it. Here we go. Yeah, I had the multiple cameras. It was super fun. I love the idea of it. I've stopped doing it mainly because I haven't had my guests in studio, which is a bummer. I'd love to have the guests in studio again. Like that was so much fun. But yeah, it's so hard. How do you join the Discord? You join the Discord at lwj.dev/discord. Let me get a link up there for that. What's True doing these days? True is out in New York. She got a full-time job. She's living in Brooklyn. Her house looks dope. But yeah, she's killing it. But yeah, not in Portland anymore, unfortunately. You can fly out. I mean, honestly, look, if some of y'all who are out of town or you want to come into town and come hang out in the studio, please do let me know. Like I've got a co-working space set up in here. We've got lots of like the Web Dev Challenge setup that you see in the show. That's usually just up. Like you can sit at those desks and work, and I love having people here. It does make me happy. You're not here for 3 hours on a Tuesday. Yeah, exactly. The idea of changing the stream with hand sounds so stylish. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Foot pedals. That's a great idea. Like that's very, very cool. Um, he took away the fart candle. Probably safe. Like I feel like that candle was. I could see his eyes water whenever he lit it. I couldn't believe that he kept it for more than one show. Um. Oh yeah, yeah. True. I I miss True. I loved having her around. She was very funny. Um. But yeah. All right. So let's see if we can make any progress on this thing. So I'm gonna avoid styles and instead I'm gonna focus on functionality. But so we have the ability in here to do. We've got our series. So like each series gets its own thing. You click into the series. This one I think I've like tacked in all the same things. But so then you get into the series, you click into one of the episodes. The episode has a video, and I am not logged in, so you can see that when you're not logged in, you can still see the public videos. But then when you go to a pre-release video, it just says you have to sign up. So that's the functionality right now. And I think I wrote this down, what's left. I need to figure out how to go from pre-release to public that's not manual. Basic admin flow. Right now, there's no way to add new episodes. Like I'd have to just go to the database admin and put them in on my own, which is not the end of the world if I do that for a little bit, but it would be nice to have a form. Adding guest support. I think I did that. So down here, we've got our guests. And then if I go into my user table, and let's add another one. And we're gonna, let's see, take advantage of some Raycast stuff. Yeah, I cannot believe that I didn't use Raycast before. Who's my we'll put Fada in today. So and this doesn't actually get displayed, so we can leave it empty, and then let's find, here we go, we'll get your photo. All right, so then now when I save this, I can go into my user resources and take this UUID and attach it to, that's this episode is the resource ID here. We save that, and now we've got guests, right? So if we create the relationship, episode ID to user ID, then the details show up. The piece that's missing right now is we don't have like a profile view. Don't know if I need that. We'll see. We'll see if we need to do a full like profile view. And the reason I was thinking about this, about what profile view specifically, is that when I put the guests in here, I was thinking about having the guests able to modify their settings, like their Twitter URL, their profile photo, stuff like that, so that later on, if they update their profile photo and they see that their old profile photo is on Learn with Jason, they could just log in and fix it instead of having to email me and wait for me to get around to it. And then having a guest like a profile page would also allow us to do things like in the case of, say, Chance, right? Chance has been on both Learn with Jason and Web Dev Challenge. So if we go to Chance's profile, we could show the episodes that he's been a part of. Give me just a second. Excuse me. And so being able to say like, oh yeah, go check out Chance, and it's a list of like details about Chance and then any of the episodes that he's been a part of on any of the series, that feels like a good thing to do. Is it a 1.0? I don't think so. I think I need to limit and get us shipped, because I've been working on the site forever, and I think at this point I need to get something out the door so that we can be using the new site instead of me just spinning on all the different ways that it works. So I'm going to say guest support finished. I also need to do a blog migration. That's going to suck. So right now, the way the blog works on Learn with Jason is it is Markdown. So I'm using content collections, and I could probably just pull these straight across. I might even be able to pull the actual blog stuff across, because I think this, like, I don't dislike this. I don't know that this really needs to be updated too much. So this is the format now. We've got the kind of floating table of contents. It has the updates in the RSS. I think when you click this too, it just, oh no, it goes to the actual newsletter. Okay, so this we can probably pull in wholesale. The schedule I'm gonna have to figure out. And I also need to decide, okay, how much pain do I want to feel? Exactly. If I had the rights, I would have done it. So right now, Learn with Jason, the series, runs on Sanity. We're at 386 episodes. And I would guess something like probably 325 guests, because we've had a handful of people on multiple times, and I've done a handful of solo episodes. So if I switch to this new database, I have to migrate all of these. I can almost certainly write a script that will generate the right format so that I can just insert these. But then I also have Aiden, who does Aiden manages the site. He creates the new episodes. He builds out all these things. So if I change that format, then I have to rewrite all of those docs also, and make sure that everything still works. Vinny, are you not a mod? Hold on. Let me mod Vinny. Let me mod Charles. Yeah. Yeah. Y'all should be mods. Did you just get response? Exactly. Get to work. But yeah, so I think right now, actually, I can show this for a minute. Let's, here. So this is Sanity, and Sanity is wonderful. So the way that it works now is I've got all the guests. Sometimes it forgets. So I've got all the guests in here, right? And each of the guests has their Twitter handle, their guest image. And so what I don't have in here is there's no link to GitHub or any of this, and none of this is manageable by the user. Now I could because Sanity does support this, I could actually let people manage their own profiles through APIs. So that's a choice I can make. And then the episodes themselves sit in here. We've got, you know, all 386 of them in here. And then each one has all of I've got a section for schedule details and then publish details. And so you can see here that there is, you know, there's the title. There's like sometimes people will cancel or postpone, and so we need to be able to hide it. There's the slug itself, the description, the date, who the guest is, and we have the ability to grab, you know, multiple guests. So this pulls from the list. And then the host, I actually have myself in the guest list, and I attach myself as the host because it was easier than like trying to hard code that. And also because sometimes I have in the past had guest hosts. Ben Hong did a couple episodes once, and that was super fun, actually. Then we've got tags, so that you can find the details on the tags, and the tags themselves are kind of set up like that. And all of that sort of tracks toward, like, we click into one of these, and then you've got the videos here. You've got links that were shared during the show. You've got a newsletter sign up. We've got the full transcript. And looking over here, we've got our tags. So if I click into like software architecture, then we get a list of every video that's tagged with software architecture. And we can also do things like search for, let's say, view. And then you get all the view stuff, but also we've got this, which needs a profile image, but you can click through and you can find the view episodes like this. Now, this is super useful to me. I don't know if anybody else uses this stuff. Yeah, you know. Oh, you spoke too soon, Wesley. Now I'm going to get you. Okay, so basically, where we're at now is this works, and the only reason I would change it is because I'm doing this whole thing over here, and I don't necessarily want. So I ran into a very specific limitation with Sanity, which is that they don't give you the ability to do like two-way links, or they do, but they don't show up in the dashboard the way that I want. And there was an issue for it that it just didn't. It's just not gonna. It's not a priority for them, and because of that, I obviously built my own CMS. What is wrong with me? No, you can do many to many, and that's not the challenge. The challenge is that when you, let me see, did I? Let's see if I still have it in here. So this is my test where I was trying to get the latest version of Sanity running, and I was thinking about using it for this new version of the site. And so once I get in here, we've got the series, and then the series has the ability to connect to a collection. The collection has the ability to connect to a series and episodes, and the episodes have the ability to connect to a collection. And so those got kind of messed up. But so here's the problem. This relationship is two-way. So the series and the collection are connected. I can't get this connection to show up here. And as far as I can tell, there's no way to get that showing on like both things, which unfortunately is kind of a deal breaker in my case, because I need to know how things are connected, and it can't only be through the collection. And so this is sort of the challenge, is like the collection is pulling in the name of the series. You'll notice that there's no reference to this name except in the series here. So the way that their relationships work is that the entity that you're working on can have a relationships field. There's no way to then on the other entity, like, so I can say that that a collection has a reference to a series. That creates a two-way bind in Sanity where I could query for that. I can say, give me all the seasons and any connections or collections that are referenced, right? That would show up properly. What they don't have is in the admin controls, they don't have a way for me to say, okay, the collection has the reference field. I need the series to show me any referenced or any collections that reference this series. There's just not a control for it. And then I looked into it briefly, like what it would take to build, and I couldn't find a good way. And the other thing is I would like for that to be editable on both sides, because if I'm in a series and I want to add a collection, I should be able to do that. And if I'm in a collection and I want to, hook it to the series, I should be able to do that. Not being able to do that from both entities, it just made, I was like, how am I going to train, like what happens when I have to teach somebody how to do this? And it had enough question marks that I didn't know how to solve it. Now, was that a good enough reason to build my own CMS? Almost certainly not, but I did it anyways. And I also, I did it as like I was curious about how the AstroDB stuff works. I really like this idea of, SQLite it's fast, it's lightweight, you can work with it locally really easily. You don't need to have a second server running to work on your site. There's so many things that I like about SQLite. The only thing that's missing is a good admin interface. And I imagine that's coming because Astro also has, is it Astro? Yeah. They also have their Astro Studio thing. And if I jump into one of these, you can see the database, and then I can, inside the database, I'll be able to see my tables, so my users, my series, my episodes. And if I click on one of these, I get this is a basic admin interface. This is probably good enough for what I'm doing. The thing that sucks, and the part that I'm struggling with, is there's not a way to do references. So when I go to my series and I say, give me relationships, they're not there. So I haven't, and these are older versions that I was messing with. They've evolved since then. But I would need to, there's just more that I need to do to make this work. And so not having here, this not having any relationship to this table makes things really hard. So then you end up building a entity selector thing, and then you have to, I don't even know how I'm going to build this. How much time do we have? Do you think in 1 hour we can build an entity selector? Let's see if we can prototype this, because this is kind of the one big thing that I really need to fix. Because if I don't get this fixed, I'm in trouble. So let's go back in here. Yeah, I can query. So I can query the the database outside of the CMS. But yes, so the challenge then becomes when we're doing actual management of the series, if I'm in a collection and the collection knows what episodes are in it, but the episodes have no awareness that they're in a collection, when I'm in the admin interface, that makes it really challenging when I add a new episode. I also can't like group by collection easily because they're not there. I can't like prefix because the reference isn't there. And then if I'm in the collection and I can't see the episodes, then I can't tell if they're in, I can't order them. Like there just becomes like, there's just enough inconvenience, just enough weirdness that I kind of just, I looked briefly at how I could build it myself, and I don't know. I mean, the thing that I love about Sanity is that it's so flexible, it can do anything. And the thing that I don't love about Sanity is that everything was invented at Sanity, which makes it hard. Like you don't have any like prior knowledge when you walk in. You have to learn their system from the ground up, and it is what it is, right? But I've got 1 hour. Time is ticking. Very true. Very true. What's up, Henri? How you doing? Good to see you. Okay, let's go. Let's make this happen. So we're here. This is down. I'm gonna start the server npm run dev, and this gets that going. Okay, so here's what I want to do. I'm going to go left half, and then over here I want to open up pages, and I'm going to you know what? Let's just build it without any of the trappings, and I'll go and add those trappings later. But what I want is I want a form, and that form is going to be method post, and inside of it we're going to have a label. That label is going to be for, let's see if we can just do the basics. So let's create a collection. Or we'll call it name. And then down here, we've got our input, and that's going to have an ID of name. It's also going to have a name of name, and then it'll have type of text. Okay. So then we'll also need, what other things go into a collection? We can look at our seed for this. Let's get the collection. Here it is. We have the release year, we've got the name, and we've got the slug. So let's release year. And finally, we'll do the slug. Oops. Okay, and then we've got our button, and that's going to be save. And then this is the part that we got to figure out is okay. So we need to connect that to a series. So if I come up here and we go to admin, right, we get one of those. Let's do just the most basic styling to get these at least looking in a line. So we'll do input and label, display block, and then let's do label, what would that be, block. Good enough, right? So now we can at least kind of see what's going on. Give our button some breathing room as well. And so what I need to do is I need to get a list of all the series. Now, have I already designed this? Select series. That pulls back all of my series. Okay, so let's go out here and we'll say const series equals await select series. Is that my phone? It's like Siri trying to talk to me, I think. Oh, because I keep saying series, yeah. Great. So then we've got that, and so let's dump that data down here. And we're going to say series null2. All right, so we have our series data. Okay, this might go faster than I thought. That would be great news. So in here, we're not going to have the like create in place thing that something like Sanity will have, but we can probably make this work. So let's do, we'll do a select. And that's gonna, let's see, we need a label for, and that's gonna be series. And what series does this collection belong to? And then we're going to have a select. It's going to have a name of series, an ID of series, and then we'll loop over series map, and we're going to return an option that will have a value of s.id, and it will have a label of s.fields.title. Okay, so that got closer. Why is it being weird like that? Okay, so now we have our list of those, and then we would just need or create a new series first. See, and this is the part that'll suck a little bit, because ideally what would happen is we would be able to like create a series in line and then connect this to it. Maybe we should put this up top just as like a UX thing, so that it's clear that like if you don't have the right series, you should create the series before you add any other details so that you don't waste time. That feels like that could work. Okay, and so then we are able to do this. So let's see if we can actually make this work. So we're gonna put in, we selected our series ID. We have the collection name, slug, and release year, and we have this form submitting, which means we can do if astro dot response. No, that's not it. I have to go look this up. do. Actually, I might have one. No, I don't. Astro post. When we get to, here we go. If astro.request. Oh, did I not try that? I thought I did. If the method is post, then we know we're submitting this form. And if that is the case, we are going to, why are we try catching? I guess we can try catch. Why not? Let's be safe. And we'll say error, and then we'll just console.error, error, and we could probably handle that better, but I'm not going to stress about it. So in here, we're going to say the data is going to be awaiting the astro.request.form data, and this is all browser standard stuff. So then I can get my series out of data.get series, and we can copy paste this. We want the name, the slug, and the release year. Okay, so then once I have those, I need to do two things. So one, we need to create a collection. And then two, create a resource relationship. Okay, so I already have my series here. So the very first thing I can do is I can say if series, how would I do this? It would be, oh, I have duplicate thingy, so we'll call this one series ID, if I can capitalize the ID. Series find S, and we'll say s.id equals series ID. Then we know no series found. And we'll just throw an error. Why not? Feels like maybe I could have started with that. Why don't we just get rid of those? Then, if we're here, now that we know that the series exists, right? Because you can't create a collection that's not connected to a series. Then we can say we need a method to insert now. Could I do that as destructuring? I probably could. Yeah. Let's see. Just triggering everybody's virtual assistants. Okay, what's up? What's up, Mickey? How you doing? Thanks for coming. So here we go. Let's see if we can make this work. So we're gonna go back. Here's our form, and we want to get the collection name. So I'm gonna go into my interface here, and we'll build this in the correct place. So we're going to export async function create collection, and that is going to include collection data, which is going to have to be a type, and that's going to have a name, which is a string. In fact, do I already have this in my schema? Because that would be neat. collection. This is, oh, we want collection fields. We got our slug, we got our name, and we got our release year. Perfect. Okay, so I can go back into my interface and I can how would this work? It would be type collection data equals, or how did, wait, hold on. What am I doing? What am I doing? This gets one of these, and then we'll get our data is going to be collection fields dot parse, and that's going to be the collection data, and that will prove that this thing is the right type. But then the other piece I need is in my schema, we need to, there's a way to export the type somewhere down here. I've done it. Apparently I haven't done it in this project. So Zod export type. So then what we can do is up here, we can dump out these fields. Can you do this like that? So I think that'll work. Let's get back over here. And then I think what I can do is just that. Yeah? Yeah, okay. So then down here, I can, let's see. What's up, Nelson? How you doing? Thanks for coming by. And let's do, let's get the response. So response equals await db dot insert. And we're going to insert into collections values. And the values that we're going to insert are, we need a created by, which I'm going to need to get out of the, so we'll need to get this get from user auth object. Then we need our fields, and that's going to be the data. And do we need anything else? Type is going to be collection, yes. Created an ID, we want the IDs to generate, I think. Let's see what happens if we let that ID generate. And we'll console log our response, and we will return last insert row ID. Great. So then we'll create the collection that returns an ID. Okay. We good? So then, if we have this interface over here, we should be able to const collection ID equals await wait, what did I call that? Create collection. to pass in our name, slug. I'm just going to keep this as underscore because I need it everywhere else to be underscore. Just make sure we've got all of our data. That should solve that. Form data. Man, don't be like that. Let's fine. We're just gonna do that. That's fine. What are you mad about? Not assignable to type date. Oh, right. Okay. That's fine. So that means I need this one to be how about that? Now are you mad at me? Okay. So then we get our collection ID, and then we create a resource relationship, which to create a relationship, we need one more, we'll say export async function create. And if we come up here and look in our schema at our resource, maybe not, maybe it's in config. We have child ID and parent ID, and then the rest of these are all good. They'll just kind of sit. Position we're going to need to care about, but I'm not going to worry about it just yet. So we're going to start with these two and say child ID and parent ID. So let's get into our setup here. And this one is going to get a child ID and a parent ID. And those are going to be, child ID is going to be a string probably, and parent ID is going to be a string, and we're going to just rock with that for now. And so then we'll get our result will be await db insert into relationships. Which alias do I have set up for this? Connections. Is that what I'm doing here? So parent ID, series ID, connections. Yeah, so we'll use connections. Values, and we will say parent ID and child ID. And then we'll just return that response. And I don't know, I'll do something with it eventually, but right now we're just going to see if we can get this to run. So we get our collection ID, and then we're going to get our create resource create resource relationship, and that one's going to be parent ID is going to be series, and child ID is going to be collection ID. Okay, so what? Collections. Oh, it needs to be series ID. Type of big int or undefined. How about that? Now what do you got to say? Okay, so if I'm correct, what I should be able to do then is we should be able to then create, let's create a Web Dev Challenge Season 2. We'll say the release year is today, sure. No errors there. Got an error here. No such table collection. Oh, did I typo this? Insert collection. It's right there. Insert collection. Do I have to, can you not use resources or use aliases? Okay, let's try it again. SQLite constraint foreign key. What does that mean, do you think? Let's log some stuff out here. Let's see what we're doing wrong. Let's get into, we've got our data. So we're going to console.log all of our data. Let's just make sure that does what we want. Okay, so we've got a series ID, we've got a name and a slug, foreign key constraint failed. Wonder if it's like maybe it actually showed up and we just didn't. Here's Web Dev Challenge. Let's get the API. Collection, Web Dev Challenge. Just the one collection. So what is our foreign key constraint? Is it that I'm doing something? Because we get through here, we go to create the collection. And do we get to that part? Like, which piece is the piece it's breaking? Okay, so it can't create the collection because there's a foreign key constraint that we're missing. So what is our foreign key constraint? In a resource. This is we don't have our user IDs. So, okay, so that's, all right, that's a solvable problem. Let's go to our user. Let's get this ID. Let's go back to our interface, and instead of doing an empty, we're gonna put in our fake user ID, at which point we should now be able to season 2, S2. SQLite constraint, or wait, did that work? That looks like it worked. If it worked, it didn't. Huh. Oh, I wonder. Or no, we need the schema. And no, we need the config. Get our resource relationships, and these are references to IDs. It says they're text. So why wouldn't that work? Let's go into our interface. Let's look at our resource relationships. We got a child ID and a parent ID. We create our resource relationship with a child ID and a parent ID. Let's console log. And that should give us back one of these, which we are logging, I thought. Oh boy. Okay. Letter Charles. Yeah, the loss to an early update is never fun. Okay, so let's just make sure that we're getting, in fact, the right thing. So we're going to put this here, call this one Season 3. And did we get... Child ID. Oh, look at that. It's breaking the thing because it's coming in as a big int, which I don't know why it's coming in as a big int. But I guess that just means I shouldn't force the values. I should just use the values I get and instead talk this into not complaining because this says not assignable to type string. So this is a big int. So we're just going to say this one needs to be a big int. We will throw a new error. That should solve this problem. Good. Now everything exists. Everybody's happy. Probably need to figure out what I'm doing about that. But okay, this is fine. This is fine. We're going to do it this way. So we'll get in here. Season 4. That one also didn't work. What? Or did it work? You worked. So what's the failure? It's still not showing up. And then if I want to get at my collections, which I suppose I'll just have to do in here. I can do like a collection dump. Maybe query resource. Oh wait, this is wrong. And we'll say equals, which I need to import, and it's going to be resource type collection. Okay, so I got my collections, and then down here we'll be able to dump those, and we'll see, like, is it saving them properly, or is it doing something weird? So we've got that collection. Here's our season 2, and it has a null ID. Oh no, so something's happening there. They're all getting null IDs. So why would they get null IDs? They would get null IDs because, do I have to do something special with the AstroDB auto ID? ID is primary key. Insert. Deletes a row. Yeah, we don't need that. do I have to generate the ID? That seems odd. ID column with the primary key property. This is being set as a number. Is that the issue? Is that I'm doing it as a number? Okay, so maybe what we can do then is we can, what's the node utility? It's like import. Is that not a thing? Could have sworn this was built in here. That's what I'm after, crypto. Oh, that sucks though. Okay, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna move this. And we're gonna take that out to the interface, and then we'll stick this up here so that we have the ability to create a UUID, which we will do. Random. Does that work? And then we would just return this ID, probably. Maybe, perhaps. And then this goes back to being a string. And then when I come back out here, we create one. And this time, there's no error, which is good. And then if I look here, we have, should be down at the bottom, we have our season 2. This is the one that we just entered. It has an ID, type collection. Okay, so that's good. That means that we're getting in the right direction here. Then let's get at our API. We'll do a series, and we'll do web dev challenge. And when we expand this, we get our 2 seasons. Haha, okay. So then, what did I do wrong there? That wasn't web dev challenge. Ah, it jumps to season 1 instead of season 2, or season 2 instead of season 1. Okay, so we got that closer. That's good. I feel pretty okay with that. Like we need to do a lot. Like there's some issues here, such as our user table currently isn't linked to our clerk table. So we need to do that. Link clerk user to AstroDB user. So we'll have to do that part. We need to make the season or series should default to first collection. And what else? We need the ability to add a new season. We need the ability to add a new episode. And when we do that, because like adding a series is going to be rare. Adding a collection is also going to be pretty rare, like once per series per quarter max, I would say. And then the episodes will be more frequent, like 1 to 4 times a month, probably. I guess, and there are certain things like if I ever do it anyways again, I would do it like once a day. So those ones are going to be the more critical ones. That flow needs to be good. Having it connect to a collection is good. Need to add the uploaders. Upload for video. Upload for thumbnail. And we also need to add guests. So I need the ability on an episode to say who was in it. And so that'll need to like pull from that guest or that user table or allow me to create a new user. Okay, I can do this. We're getting there. We're getting there. None of it is really a question mark anymore. It's just kind of like work, if that makes sense. But yes. Will I be posting this to my channel for viewing at a later time? Yes, I will. This is currently on it'll be on the live tab of my YouTube profile. And you can find this and any other live videos that I do. They'll be up immediately. You can skip back if you want and watch this whole thing starting from the beginning already. And then once I stop, which I might call it, we're about 10 minutes from when I would usually start, when I would usually cut off. And I don't know that I've got much else to cover right now. So might call this one done, but it'll be available for viewing as soon as I shut it. Like as soon as I shut it down, it's already there. And with that, I feel like we made solid progress today. We got a kind of a basic admin setup for our AstroDB. It is unstyled. It's got some, there's some stuff I'm doing in here that doesn't feel like it's like ultra great UX, but it gets us closer. And so for that, I'm feeling pretty happy. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can get this. If I can get to the point where I can add new episodes and stuff, I might try to go ahead and run through getting all of the episodes and everything exported and getting like Learn with Jason set up with. I'm going to do that one by years. So we'll have a 24, 23, 22, all the way back to 2018 of Learn with Jason. And that'll be a good test for me to do the like season switcher and making sure that things are running there. That'll also be good because I have to pull in things like transcripts. And when I have the transcripts, I want to make sure that those don't like bog down the queries. So I'm going to have to do some research on making sure that my queries are performant. There's a lot left to do here for sure, but feeling pretty solid overall. I think we made some good progress, and the site is feeling closer and closer to something that is actually shippable. I think it's going to look a little janky until I do the final polish pass on CSS and design. But I'm not sad about the functionality. It feels like it's doing what I wanted it to do. We've got the ability to protect content. We've got the ability to display public content. I'm going to add the ability to have YouTube videos as well up there, because I have to decide, am I going to do like Mux only for the pre-release videos, or am I going to do it for the other ones as well? Not 100% sure yet. We'll see. I kind of like the idea of like making it easy. And so YouTube for public stuff might be the easiest thing to do, especially because people care so much about metrics. Which, speaking of metrics, if you're still here, please do hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share my stuff with other people. Make sure you go watch that new video I put up today about luck. It is, I'm pretty proud of it. I think it's really good. I got to work with some great people. There are really smart people involved in that video, and you should take the opportunity to go learn from them because they're smart. They're doing things, and it's worth listening to them. So I think we're gonna call this one good. Thank you all very much. I appreciate you hanging out today. Make sure you come back on Thursday. We've got we got a good run coming. Like, let's look at the schedule here because it's gonna be great. We have we're gonna build a board game on the web. This is Eli Goodman. Eli works at a company called Tuple. Tuple is actually gonna sponsor the show. And it's pair programming software. I'm not going to talk about it too much just yet, but I'm really excited about it and what it kind of unlocks for the show. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a good time. We've got Matt Pocock coming in. We're going to talk about TypeScript and generics. It's going to be great. There might be tiers. We'll see. Sarah Vieira is going to talk about 3D on the web. Sarah's doing some incredible stuff. I cannot wait to learn what she's got in mind. And then Ryan Carniato is going to come teach us about Solid Start. And that's not all. We got even more coming up. So it's going to be a great August. We're going to be moving into September with a wonderful lineup here. So stay tuned, mark your calendars, subscribe on all the places, get on the newsletter, do all the things that you got to do to make sure that you can come and hang out with us. Keep your eyes peeled for the next episode of Web Dev Challenge because that's coming soon. All right, y'all. We will see you next time.